Let's talk resveratrol. This has come up in our conversation, in our previous conversations, but let's do a bit of a deeper dive on it, and in particular about David Sinclair. There seems to be some polarizing opinions on this subject. So let's talk about your opinion of resveratrol.
Yes, definitely. So resveratrol is a very interesting compound. It's a polyphenol with multiple health benefits that have been shown in mice. And then there are some studies in humans that are basically somehow controversial, because the theory that David Sinclair is fond of is that basically resveratrol activates sirtuins, and particularly sirtuin 1. Now, there have been a lot of publicity around this compound because of this. So 10 years ago or 15 years ago, when it was discovered, there was a lot of hype around resveratrol, and then GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, bought David Sinclair's company for a very big amount, I think something like 700 millions. And then they were struggling to actually make it bioavailable and absorbable in humans. They were struggling with their ensuring that it's actually as efficient as David Sinclair and others claim. So what happened there is that they did a study that showed that indeed resveratrol can activate sirtuin 1, but under certain conditions in the lab that have to do with a balance of a special balance of amino acids like tryptophan and so on in lab conditions in cells. So we still don't have solid data showing that resveratrol is actually a sirtuin 1 activator in humans in vivo. But what is happening is that there have been other benefits of resveratrol that have been proven. So, for example, there are clinical studies showing that resveratrol can indeed have cardioprotective effect in humans, or it can protect towards cognitive decline, Alzheimer's disease, and so on. So resveratrol does have benefits as a compound. It's a bit controversial with regards to the sirtuin 1 activation in particular, and its action as an anti-aging compound. So I do have a lot of customers asking me, "Oh, Elena, when are you going to launch resveratrol?" And I've been saying, yeah, we're going to launch it soon. And I've been probably saying this for months, but actually, as more and more data piling up, I'm actually not sure about wanting to launch this product, because its action as an anti-aging supplement that activates sirtuin 1 is actually somehow controversial, and there is not enough evidence. Now, there's been a lot of drama online, basically, with David Sinclair and other researchers digging into this, and David Sinclair basically kind of trying to avoid to answer directly. So he did cite recently an old study showing that resveratrol is a sirtuin 1 activator. I believe it was the study that I mentioned before with the certain amino acid conditions in the lab. However, we don't have more concrete data in humans. So there are people out there that might choose to take resveratrol for its other benefits, for the cardioprotective events in particular, and this is fine. It's just, I think that we need to make sure that we're presenting things as we are. So, for example, for the sirtuin 1 activation, if you just take 1 spoon of olive oil in the morning, you will definitely have a better effect, because actually in a lab study, we've seen that oleic acid, which is the active compound in extra virgin olive oil, can actually activate sirtuin 1 in a much more potent manner than resveratrol itself. So this is something to keep in mind. And then, this can be incorporated in your anti-aging routine. So when you're taking your NMN in the morning, you're just taking your spoon of olive oil, and you have this really nice activation, definitive activation of sirtuin 1. And then you're providing the fuel for the sirtuin 1 to work as well, because you're boosting your NAD levels with the NMN. So NMN and oleic acid, I think that it's a really, really nice combination. But back to resveratrol, I'm actually not convinced myself about the efficacy when it comes to the sirtuin 1 activation in particular. But this doesn't mean that the compound is completely trash. and no one should take it. Like that's not what I'm saying, because as I said, there are other proven effects such as the cardioprotective effect, which is nice, but at the same time, people always need to do their own research.
Yeah. So I suppose David made the mistake of getting a bit excited too early.
Well, it is what it is. And, it's a lot at stake for him as well, for the compounds he's working with. So, it's up to him how he handles the situation, basically.
Now, very interesting about the olive oil, and that you have now convinced me that this is something I should do. And again, of course, that links very nicely with the Mediterranean diet, doesn't it? And why we see so many benefits. So you are saying then a teaspoon of olive oil. Would you mix that in with, say, the NMN, for example?
No, I don't see a reason to do this. And, as you know, I'm still taking the capsules of NMN, so I'm not breaking them down. It's just a personal preference. And yeah, I just take the NMN capsule. And then after that, I'm taking the teaspoon of olive oil. Bear in mind that if you don't want to break your fast, so you basically need to keep under 50 calories with your morning supplement intake to not basically activate your metabolism. So for this reason, it should be probably just around half a teaspoon of olive oil, because other than that, like a whole tablespoon of olive oil, I think is 110 calories. So this is going to activate your metabolism. But if you just take less than half of it, maybe 60% of a teaspoon, I think that's the right amount to still get the sirtuin-1 activation, and then also not to trigger your metabolism in the morning because you're fasting. And of course, you take this with NMN, and you always want to be taking your NMN first thing in the morning, because it boosts your NAD levels, and your circadian rhythms are actually very sensitive to NAD levels. So you always want to do this in the morning. I recently saw a study. They were doing different things with NMN, like a morning intake and afternoon intake. And I think that for me personally, this whole study was a mess, because it was in elderly adults over 65. And then they were just giving them 250 mg of NMN, which is a very low dosage. And then the statistics were not right. So I actually didn't like this study. It wasn't a very efficient design.
Funny that actually around studies, isn't it? Because I think as a layman, you read a study, let's say, from a renowned source online, and you automatically think, now this is a piece of research, this is an official study, therefore it must be good. But as I'm beginning to realize, is that one study is not necessarily the same as another. The methods by which they decide to double blind it or triple blind it, or all those other sorts of things that you can do, it's really, really important, aren't they? And they will determine whether this is a worthy study or not. Else it's just kind of money, it's just funding down the drain, isn't it? I would think, for a lot of studies. So I think that's a very interesting point.
Yeah, this is actually very profound with some studies that they haven't been designed well, and this is a real shame, because obviously someone is spending time and money on this. So especially with the placebo effect and everything. So back to this NMN, a recent NMN study with the elderly adults, they did have a placebo control group, but then if you see the actual results, they were the results were statistically significant in terms of difference with the NMN group, but the results in the control group were also changing as the study was going by. So, I don't even know what happened there, honestly. I was very disappointed about the study, because I was looking forward to it, obviously, such as with every NMN trial that comes out. But, there are different journals, and there are journals with very low impact, for example, that are not very vigorous with their peer review process. So you always need to also check, where a study is published.
Very interesting. And as we know, the placebo element of studies is just as crucial, and quite often really probably, I would imagine, annoys the hell out of pharmaceutical companies, because that placebo effect is so powerful. You tell somebody they're going to take a pill that makes them feel better, even if it's just sugar, and they will feel better.